We're going to take questions. Sorry. I don't like the end. One of my 10 words, fogging. And while we take questions, I'm just going to put up, this is a little bit of what Elevate.2 does. So we help companies lead with heart, steer with clarity, and deliver with confidence. So it's just a little bit about Elevate while I take questions.
Any questions?
Raise your hand and he'll bring a mic.
I'm just going to run here real quick.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I was wondering, the concepts you're presenting, they are quite classical on how to develop the strategy. So what do you think is the main difference, if there is any, for agile organizations? So is there something special you need to consider while developing the strategy if you want to be agile, truly agile?
Sure. And by the way, that the similarity to classic methods is a little bit intentional. So in moving from Rally to Elevate, one of the things we've done is we're working pretty much exclusively with senior leadership teams. And I've learned that if I use a bunch of weird words like Agile and Scrum Masters and product, they're like, whatever, right? I lose them pretty fast. Instead, I tend to focus on the mindset and the practices that instantiate the mindset. So what makes it agile? That piece around really making it an inclusive, collaborative process. So coming together to determine the strategy is not an act of one person coming up with a strategy and then selling it to everybody else. It is truly a collaborative process in which we value all inputs, right? And allow space for divergence and then come to agreement. So that's one piece that I would say makes it agile. Another piece is again, a lot of strategies are supposed to look like this. They end up just being a list of 50 projects. But again, the deep intent is to trust our people that if I can articulate strategy with clarity repeatedly, I can then decentralize decision making, which I think is one of the most important aspects of Agile, right? So not pretend decentralized, really decentralized. Like, yes, I trust you guys to make better decisions. You have better information, but I can trust you to do that because I also trust that you understand where we're going. And I want to create an environment where if we have a doubt, right? So if you're like, I still think what I'm saying is important and we should still do it, even though it's not in your strategy, that we invite that conversation. So there's a trust, a decentralizing of decision-making, and a transparency that goes with all of it as well that I think is a tenet of Agile. So not just sharing the pretty picture and the poster, but sharing the conversations we had, why we chose this over that, being very transparent about how we got here, I think is also, and then being very transparent about how we're doing. So a company that's willing to say, yep, this is the plan, we're halfway through the year, we're not doing so great. And that's not a problem, that's an awesome piece of information that allows us to adjust. So an element of steering along the way. And by the way, there were times when we set one strategy and halfway through the year we were like, ooh, that was wrong, and we changed it. So that willingness as well. I feel like I had one more, but that sounds like a pretty good start. But thank you for asking the question.
One more, I think, all the way in the back.
Cheers again. Thank you for your talk. It was very informative.
Thank you.
I was wondering, in your opinion, when it comes to being a business strategist, what are the most important skills one has to develop, and what are some specific measures one can take to develop those skills?
Ooh. That's a great question. Which is what we say when we're stalling. What are the skills? You know, and here's the interesting thing. So I don't pretend to be a great strategist, to be perfect. Well, that's not true. I can be really good at helping. I mean, I did guide strategy for a long time. So what are the skills? Actually, I do. Okay, so I do know the answer to this. Now that I think about it, there's a few things. I think there's a piece about being willing and able to pick your head up and see the whole. Right? Lean talks about see the whole, and that's another reason, by the way, we have the elephant as our symbol. Right? There's a parable about 6 blind men touching the different parts of the elephant. They say, well, I think it's like an elephant's like a rope because they're touching the tail, and elephant's like a wall because they're touching a leg. And in reality, the elephant, it looks totally different. It's this big thing. So there's an element of being able to see the whole. I don't know how to know that you're good at that except to keep challenging yourself to do it. And so what I look for is someone who constantly assumes they're missing something and goes looking for it. What am I not seeing? What do I not know? And so they become people who, another skill is not afraid to look out across the organization to their colleagues who have very different disciplines and very different strengths, and truly want to learn from those people and their perspective and learn from their strengths and partner with people who have different strengths. I think that is part of what makes a great strategist. There's some other things that are much more, particular. Like I was recently working with one of my former Rally colleagues. He ran marketing. He's really good at understanding the market and understanding different strategies in a SaaS software market for success. So there's very particular things to whatever business you're in. And again, I think it's about that big picture piece though, really being able to see the longer version, not what we need to do today, not just the 10-year goal, but paths to get there. Like I think one of my strengths is I see many paths. Right? And I'm able to keep adjusting based on new information. So those are what I think of. One more?
One more over here.
I would like to pick your brain on the topic of cadence.
Yeah.
Because one major criticism about, for example, OKRs is the quarterly thing. We all want to be agile. We slice down things in very tiny parts to be, flexible on the way to our big, fancy vision. On the other hand, you need stability to the strategy. On the other hand, you need some time to, I say, roll out, make sure that everybody knows about the new mother strategies.
Yep.
So what is your take on that? How did you find this quarterly thing, or do you just like the thought that everybody knows what a quarter of a year is?
No, yeah, well, it's funny. So the real reason I like quarters is because they're seasons. So humans, I mean, so I have dreadlocks for a reason. Like there's still a hippie inside this corporate consultant, right? So at the end of the day, cadences are how humans operate. You have the daily cadence, the weekly, we operate in weeks from Monday to Sunday, right? We have weekends where we refresh. We have seasons, right? And as we move through the year, we mark these things. We don't just experience them, we actively mark them and notice them. I think business is the same way. So, you can have arguments about the wisdom of quarters, but I think they connect to seasons. So what I love about the cadences, at Rally, it forced us to, it's very easy to get into the day, and I'm trying to accomplish things, and I've broken my work down into tiny pieces, and blah, blah, blah. But I like having a ceremony where we pick our heads up and think a little bit farther, looking a little farther ahead to make sure that all that activity is heading towards something. And in terms of being agile, I think it's equally important to retrospect, are we getting anywhere? And how do we know we're getting somewhere? And so I like to match metrics with stories. I'm a big believer in stories as well, right? And whether we're getting somewhere or not, do we need to continue to work hard on that strategy, or do we need to change the strategy? And knowing when to do which. And there's no art, there's no science to that. It's about having the conversation. So what I think Rally really excelled at is we stopped to have the conversation and ask ourselves, right? And there was a time when we needed to change directions every quarter, and it was the right thing to do. We were moving fast. But then there was a time when our strategies were a little bigger and a little more complicated, and they took a little longer to accomplish. And we stopped trying to make initiatives fit into a quarter, and we stopped making it so easy to change direction. We found that people wanted time to really accomplish something. And so part of it was just a habit around reflection and a habit around having conversations and a belief that everybody, even people who aren't very strategic, everybody benefits from picking their heads up and taking a look around.
So did I understand you right that you fitted your strategic bits to the quarters?
At first,
Or the way
but not
around?
eventually. At first, but then not. It changed. They still naturally tended to, but they got bigger and longer as we got more mature and we got bigger. So it changed over time. Yeah, cool.
All right. To be honest, you guys all look like you desperately need a beer. And Ronica is going to stick around for a while, so if you have
Yeah.
any more questions, she'll be happy, I guess, to answer them.
And I also have business cards and stickers. You guys are
That's
welcome
cool. We all love those.
to. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronica.